My name is Eric John Campbell, and in this video I want to share a piece of the story about how I became an author. Growing up, I never considered myself a writer, and I always considered myself an entrepreneur. I remember obsessively starting so many random online businesses ever since I was 13, which is when I started my first one. But it wasn't until I was 24, almost 25, that I had a spiritual awakening experience. So up until that point, I was obsessed with reading business books and spiritual books. But I always considered the spiritual books just a personal interest, and then the business books were to help me with the work that I loved to do at the time. But after I had this spiritual awakening experience, I remember I was living in Prague in the Czech Republic, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I just felt this energy inside of me that I never felt before. And I started writing, and all of these words were pouring through, and one line kept repeating. It said, "Wake up, it's all energy. Wake up, it's all energy." And I couldn't believe it. I was scared and excited because I never felt this feeling before, but I didn't know what it meant. And I just had this phrase ringing in my head for a while. And after that awakening experience, I was on the phone with someone who lived in Venice and Los Angeles through a free coaching call. And I just knew immediately I had to come to his weekend retreat. So I flew to Venice and Los Angeles, but I left a lot of my stuff in Prague. And I ended up leaving that stuff in Prague for many years because I didn't go back for a while. And I just stayed in Venice because it had this incredible spiritual community. I was meeting so many people and I was growing so much. And I was so inspired by the people I was meeting. But it wasn't until I went on a road trip with a great friend of mine where we went up the northern coast of California, just completely led by intuition. And we ended up in Northern California with some of the tallest trees in the world. And we went to this place, and my friend and I separated, so I was alone in nature with these trees. And what happened was I found one of those trees with like a hollow inside, so I sat inside the tree and meditated. And shortly after I started, I felt a lightning bolt full of energy just like flash through my body, and I'd never felt this before. Like, not that I remember ever feeling that craziness. And the message inside was forget everything and write a book. And to me, forget everything meant forget the business stuff I was so focused on at the time and just focus on writing. And I went back to Los Angeles, which is where I was living then. And I remember I would go to a cafe each day and words would start pouring through. Now keep in mind, this is before the book, A Manual for Manifesting Your Dream Life. The first book I ever wrote was called Express Your Light. And so each day I would just go to this cafe, words would be pouring through and I was just transcribing them. And then at the end of the day, I would go to where I was living and I would type up those words. And eventually that was the first book. Now, even though I published Express Your Light pretty shortly after I wrote it, I had no idea how to self-publish a book. So it just lived on Amazon with no one checking it out, not properly edited. And so actually Express Your Light is a book that I didn't properly publish for a long time. And I did another edit about a year ago, I believe, and that's when I republished it, an updated version. But yeah, so that was the first book I ever wrote. That's how it started. And then from that moment on, whenever I felt a strong inner call to write a book, I would just go, sit down, create the space and the intention for it. And each time it always comes through the same way. I can't force it. I can't make it happen before it's ready to be written. But when it's time, it just comes through very quickly, and all my job is to transcribe it. Now, of course, the editing is a whole nother process, and that's where my logic, my mind gets much more involved. But in the moment that these books are written, it just is stream of consciousness writing. So that's the story about how I became an author. And there's a lot more I can share about it, and I'm sure I will love to share about it in the near future, but I just wanted to create a quick version of it right here for you.